So Friday the 13th is just a wild franchise. There's absolutely no continuity or anything whatsoever, and because of that, I kind of really enjoy just how insane it is. I kind of love this franchise, but I also kind of hate it. And today I'm going to rank every movie within the series. Jason Goes to Hell is just by far the worst Friday the 13th movie. It's not even fun. I think that some people do enjoy this. I don't get how. I think it's just too weird. And I have a very pretty high line for what I consider too weird. I love movies that are just batshit insane and make no sense. This is one where I don't enjoy it kind of because of that. There's such little logic and it makes such little sense that I just don't find it fun. I find it confusing. Why is Jason a body hopping slug? It makes no sense. I don't enjoy this movie, and it's by far my least favorite. I honestly kind of hate it. Yeah, I don't like Jason X much either. I think that this movie is it's so low budget. It looks so bad that I can't focus on the rest of the movie. This is one of the ugliest looking movies that I've ever seen. The sets are all terrible, and just the cinematography is just unwatchable. It's yeah, the lighting it's so poorly done. But I also can admit that the design of Uber Jason's amazing. I think that it's fun. I can enjoy it a lot more than I can Jason Goes to Hell. It's not anywhere near as bad as that. But I still would pretty much never choose to watch this willingly again after my first watch. It's not very good. So Freddy vs. Jason sucks as a Friday the 13th movie, but it's okay as a Nightmare on Elm Street one. I think that that's just generally agreed upon by now. I don't know. I think that I love the way that Jason looks in this movie. I think that it's one of my favorite designs for him. But the performance is not that interesting. This movie would have been way better with Kane Hodder. And yeah, I think that the characters aren't that interesting, but you don't really go to the slasher movies for the protagonists. And still, I think that it's decent. It's a lot better than the previous two that we've talked about, but it's still absolutely nothing special. Alright, so this is going to be the first really big hot take on this list. I do not like Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. I just don't enjoy this movie. And I know that this is a very common answer for number one on this list. I don't like it. I don't know how to describe it, but there's just something about this movie that I just don't really like. I can admit that I'm biased, because even I don't understand. I just don't enjoy this. I've never gotten the hype behind why this is considered a slasher masterpiece when it's just yet again another repetitive movie. Probably because I saw all of these within such a short time span. I was so tired of the formula by the time we got to the fourth movie that I just couldn't enjoy it. So that's probably why I don't like this movie. Otherwise, I totally get why someone... Actually, no, I don't really. I totally get how someone could enjoy this. It's just not my thing. So Friday the 13th Part 3 is also, it's just another decent one. I think that this is better. They think that it's better than the fourth one because by the time that I watched this, I wasn't as tired of the formula of the first four. Even though this movie does spend so much time in the barn, which I don't understand. I feel it's just trying to pad out the runtime. It's fine though. I'm obviously love the scene where Jason gets his mask. That basically changed the course of this franchise forever. But I think it's still not all that interesting of a movie, and it's not something that I've even thought about rewatching once within a year and a half. So that's not the best sign. It's not rewatchable at all. If there's anything that pretty much the entire Friday the 13th fandom can agree on, it's that the best look of Jason was in Part 7. And I can 100% agree with that. I think that this is by far the best look of Jason. It is just so well designed. It is, yeah. And that's by far the best part of the movie. That and Kane Hodder's performance as Jason. These characters are not memorable in the slightest. I can't remember a single one of their names. And, yeah. I mean, I know that no one really goes to a slasher movie for the protagonist, as I said earlier. This is the worst protagonists that I've ever seen in a slasher movie, I think. They're not as hateable as some, but those are Hellraiser movies, and I think you're supposed to hate them. And, yeah, seriously though. This movie's a lot more entertaining, I think, than the other ones, just because the Jason here is just so awesomely well done that it kind of distracts from the rest, from how bad the rest of the movie really is. So yeah, overall it kind of averages out to like a 4 or 5 out of 10. So yeah, it's definitely better than the other ones, even though by a pretty small amount. Me putting part 5 this high is not even going to be the hottest take on this list. I have some very unpopular opinions with this franchise, but seriously, yeah, I kind of really like this movie. I think that it is so unbelievably stupid and such a lack of any talent behind the camera. The director for this movie just flat out chose not to do his job. If you hear about the scene if you hear about the behind the scenes for this movie, it's wild. But seriously, yeah, it's insane. This movie makes absolutely no sense to the point where I literally remember the day after that I watched this, I thought that parts of this movie were in a dream that I had. I don't believe that half of this movie actually exists. Well, not really. I did for when I first watched it. It's just insane, and I kind of love just how little sense this movie makes. Stuff just happens out of random, but it's done in a fun way because there's such little care behind the camera that it's almost funny. I feel, yeah, it's a terrible movie. It's definitely worse made than a lot of the movies that I put up below it. I just really enjoy Friday the 13th Part 5. Although I can admit, Roy sucks as a killer. And the Friday the 13th remake is really overhated. I mean, nowadays it's definitely gotten its resurgence in popularity. There's a lot of people that really like this movie, like Cody Leach, who's a really good critic. If you don't follow him, you should definitely check him out. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed this movie. I think that it's really fun. It's the first like 20 minutes or so are fantastic. But the rest of it's really good too. This is just like a really solid, well put together slasher movie that does go a bit too far with certain things, but otherwise I really enjoy it, and I think it's one of the better remakes from the late 2000s. I mean, it's not as good as either of Rob Zombie's Halloween ones in my opinion, but still, it's good. I would definitely. This is the first movie on the list that I would recommend to people. I've seen a lot of people hating on the first Friday the 13th recently, and I definitely don't agree. I actually like this movie a lot. I can admit that it's kind of mindless and wanders a lot, but I really enjoy it. I think that Pamela Voorhees is a great villain. She's very intimidating. Even if she does only show up in the final 15 minutes, those are a very memorable final 15 minutes or so. I really enjoy this movie. At this point, the formula wasn't stale, even though it kind of was from other slasher movies, but within the franchise, I mean, it's the original, so gotta give it some credit, even though I'm definitely not the kind of person that just would pick something because it's the first one. I mean, my favorite movie of all time is the sequel. Still, yeah, I really enjoy the first Friday the 13th, even if it is definitely not a perfect movie. And yeah, and it definitely got better in the sequels. Yep, and Friday the 13th Part 2 is even better than the original. We finally got to the movies that like I can fully say that I love. I really enjoy Friday the 13th Part 2. I think that it's by far my favorite of the first four. And yeah, this is one of my favorite all-time camp slasher movies. I really think that Sackhead Jason works. It's got the best central cast by far, aside from maybe one other one. Seriously, this movie is it's incredibly entertaining. It's well done the whole way through. Ginny's an amazing final girl, and yeah, I really like this movie. I think that it's in competition even with some of the other sequels and some of the other franchises from the big four. Alright. I get why everybody hates this movie, but I do not give a shit. I fucking love Jason Takes Manhattan. This movie's one of my favorite slasher movies of all time. It is so unbelievably stupid that I can watch this movie and laugh my ass off the entire time. It is so dumb, but it is so fun. I love the characters here. I think Charles McCulloch, I think that's the guy's name. One of the dumbest characters in horror movie history. He makes some of the dumbest decisions, and I love it. This movie it's insane. It feels like everything that Part 5 was trying to do, but a little bit more intentional. I've listened to the director's commentary on it too. It's honestly I have some respect for the guy who made it. Yeah, And aside from that, it's got some great effects. I love the obviously everyone loves the head punch scene, which is probably the best scene in the movie. But even still, I don't mind the boat part of the movie. I think it's fun. You know, Jason on a boat's a concept that I like too. And of course, this has one of my favorite scenes in the entire franchise, being the restaurant scene. Obviously, the Times Square part too. The solid 10-15 minutes where he's in like just on the subway, just going around New York, going crazy, is one of my favorite parts of this entire franchise. So yeah, I get why everybody hates this movie. I would never judge someone for hating it too, but I don't care. I absolutely love Jason Takes Manhattan, and it's my second favorite movie in this franchise. Yeah, with that being said, it was pretty obvious what number one is. Jason Lives is just the best Friday the 13th movie. Like, objectively, it's the best made. It's got some really funny editing. I really like how they use the editing to tell jokes within the movie. Um, I also just, in general, I love the design of Jason. I love CJ Graham's performance. This has the best protagonist. This is the best version of Tommy. Yeah, I really just I think it's a very funny movie. It's it's a horror comedy masterpiece. It's well directed. It's by far the best made movie in this franchise. Yeah, I know I'm throwing around kind of the same stuff, but it's a movie that I really do love. It's one of my favorite slasher movies of all time. Yeah, and it's by far my favorite Friday the 13th.